1969, the federal government made charity optional for charities. Health systems included, and I bet you were never told that. I know I just found out. So let me walk you through exactly how the nonprofit hospital stopped having to care for the poor and kept the tax break anyway. All right, let's start with the deal. Now, the deal is a nonprofit hospital pays no federal income tax, no state income tax, and no property tax on its buildings and land. In return, right, the original rule is simple. Totally makes sense to every human being. If you take care of people whom cannot pay, we'll give you an exemption. Charity care in exchange for the tax break. Then 1965 happened. Medicare and Medicaid arrived. Suddenly, the government was paying for the elderly and the poor, and the hospital had a real. If the government now covered those patients, what was left of the charity that justified the exemption? Now, the honest answer would have been to revisit the exemption. Instead, in 1969, the IRS issued Revenue Ruling 69-545. 69-545. It deleted the hard requirement to provide charity care. And in its place, it wrote two words: community benefit. And now here's the trick buried in those two words. The hospital defines community benefit, and the hospital picks the costing method. The hospital fills out its own Schedule H. They write the test, they take the test, they grade the test. Now, what happens when you let an institution grade its own paper? Exactly what you'd expect. The GAO looked into it. Not a single hospital lost its tax exemption in over a decade. And even 30 hospitals reported that they had zero community benefit. Zero, nothing, nix, nada, and kept the break. Now, the Loan Institute did the math on what the exemption is worth versus what these health systems get back. The fair share deficit came to $25.7 billion across roughly 80 non-profit hospitals. Kaiser Permanente on its own, over $1 billion. Providence on its own, over $1 billion. $1 billion gap between the break they take and the care they return. That's each. I wonder where the liberals are on that deal, because they're on Elon right now. All right, so where does the money actually go? Well, it doesn't go to charity, it goes to capital. The exemption gives them cheaper money than anyone else can borrow. Tax-exempt bonds, untaxed real estate. They use the cheaper money to buy independent practices. And listen to this, the day the practice becomes a hospital outpatient department, the same visit collects more. Remember that sticky little topic, the one I keep talking about, site-neutral payments? Listen to me. Hospital affiliation adds $1,327 per patient per year to every single Medicare recipient. Now, let's take orthopedics. The same episode runs about $22,000 for independent, $40,000 at a hospital. It's a total knee replacement. Same surgeon, same procedure, higher number on the bill. That is what this exemption funds. It's supposed to be for poor people, it's supposed to be for a food pantry, not an acquisition. So when a hospital executive, and let me tell you, there's a whole bunch of them out there, tells you their nonprofit is a community asset, ask the only question that matters. And really, every American ought to be asking this question. How much of every dollar do you actually spend on the poor? You know what the answer is? Sometimes it's pennies, sometimes it's nothing. Charity care is that low because charity care was never the point. The bonds were the point, the untaxed real estate was the point, and the acquisitions were the point. The hospitals wanted to buy every single doc, and Congress wanted to help them. 1969 did not break the nonprofit hospital. 1969 revealed what it was meant to be. The system, as I say, is not broken. I'm waiting for another congressman to steal that idea. It's working exactly as designed. And it was designed in 1969 to keep that beautiful halo and drop the obligation. I laid out the ruling, the GAO finding, and the loan numbers, all sourced in the Rojas report. That's me and a whole bunch of accountants in the background. So, look, about 100,000 physicians read us, healthcare executives, lawmakers. Thank you for your support. Everyone in healthcare has an opinion about nonprofit hospitals, but almost no one has the receipts because the receipts in here. Read.rojasreport.com is where you can find us. All right, I'm going to finish a car wash. Thanks, Tesla. Rojas out.